Now that our windows are completed, we will begin to work on a deck off of the back of the house. To align the deck to the house, we will be using lots of dimension lines. When you use these lines, make sure that your lines are on top of the face itself and not going off in another direction. These lines are crucial to ensure that the drawing is lined up properly and in the right position. With the tape measure tool, I will come up off the bottom of the house for 1 foot. I'll also find my midline by clicking and dragging over, which is at 10 feet since the house is 20 feet total across. I'm going to create a board or a plank or a joist as they call it for building a deck, and the dimension of this board will be 10 feet, 8 feet. What we want to do is take this board, double click it, find the midpoint, and move it to the intersection point of our two guidelines, putting it directly into the center. With it still selected, we want to right click on this particular joist and make it a component. We can press create, and now this particular item has become a component. Let's go into edit mode of this component by double clicking it, because if you don't, you cannot push pull it. So let's go into edit mode, double click, and now we're going to push pull this joist for a distance of 1.5 inches thick. Oops, I did feet. 1.5 inches thick, so it looks like that. At this point, let's click off of the component so that we are no longer in edit mode, and so we can create the rest of the deck supports that go underneath to the edge. With our rectangle tool, move into the corner, make sure you zoom in so you're nice and tight, and snap to the edge points so that we can get this joist the exact size. This distance we're going to use here is 1.5 inches, 8 inches. You'll notice your rectangle is butted up against the side and looks like this. We're going to want to make this a component as well, so we'll double click and make it a component. At this point, if this is not a component, meaning you can click on it and it doesn't go into edit mode, you have to go back and make sure that your joist back here is also a component. If not, this will not be able to be a component. Take our component and copy it. Make sure you're not in edit mode, but rather you always want to copy components outside of edit mode. So with my move tool, press Control, drag, drop it into position, and immediately press \8. This will give us 8 equal supports going back across. If that \/ command does not work, duplicate it again, drop it, and hit \/ immediately. Because these are all components, we can double click one, and all of them will change to the length of what you defined for the first one. We're going to pull this length out for 9 feet 9 inches. Click out of edit mode, and now you can see your 8 components completely across. Let's now take our back joist that we made and grabbing our back edge that meets with the house, pressing Control, we're going to copy one to the front. Now these two boards are the same, and all 8 of these boards are the same. We will now begin by putting supports on the deck itself. To do so, you want to very carefully rotate around and get yourself in a position where you can see straight down over the object. This will help to ensure that our lines are correctly in the right, are lined up in the right place. From this edge, we're going to make a rectangle 3 inches by 3 inches thick, and press Enter. We want to immediately double click and make this a component as well, as we will be using it 6 more times. We're going to copy this component more times to use it throughout the drawing. Let's rotate around and then back ourselves out. As we move ourselves over in the drawing, we're going to want to take the midpoint of our support, press Control, and find the midpoint of the joist that we have here. Very carefully press Enter, making sure they're all nice and flat. These two supports will then be transferred over to the other side. With our select tool, we'll select one, carefully press shift so we can select both of them. And with our move tool, we're going to move the front right edge, press control, drag it over, and move it into position. If done properly, we should now be able to go and double click each one of our supports, and because they are components, pulling one down will create 4 supports, which I will use to infer to the bottom of the house so they come out just as deep as the bottom of the house. Come out at edit mode, and your drawing should look like this. We'll now move to the back of the deck where it meets the house to create the deck boards that run parallel to these front joists and to the house itself. Using guidelines, carefully zoom in so you can get a guide from the edge of the joist over. Not this line, but this line. Making sure this is at 3 feet. And we also want to take a guide up from the very bottom of this line up to here. We want to use this intersection point, or this corner, to create our first deck board, or the profile of it at least. Clicking and dragging to the right, we're going to enter a distance of 10 feet and 6 inches by 1.5 inches. That'll give us this outline, and if we check the other side, we should see that it is 3 inches on both sides. Perfect. Push pull this board over for 2.5 inches, making each deck board 2.5 inches in length. Triple click and make this a component, as we're going to use this deck board multiple times, and we want all the deck boards to react the same in one shot, so we'll make sure that this is a component before moving forward. Double check to make sure that this board is a component by clicking one time and seeing that it all selects in one shot. Double clicking will also put you into edit mode, further verifying that this is in fact the right size component ready to be moved. Carefully, with your move tool, zoom all the way in, and you want to select the part of the component where it meets the board beneath it. Carefully going to press control and drag my component out until it meets the very edge of the deck. Make sure you get a good angle to verify that you are in fact snapped to the right point. As soon as you press the mouse key, you want to backslash for 35 feet. I'm sorry, not feet, just 35. And that will give you each of your deck boards all the way across at the appropriate size. Now we're going to begin to add the railing to our deck using components and more guidelines. You'll notice I have no guidelines on my drawing right now because what I did was I went to edit and delete guides. Do the same so you start with a nice clean drawing. Now we'll add some guidelines in that we need specific for this drawing. With my tape measure tool, I'm going to zoom in, and from the edge I'm going to measure in 3 inches. I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing as well. Now let's focus our attention over in the back left corner. We're going to create our first post to hold the banister. With my square tool, I'm going to click the back left corner and drag off. The distance of this post will be 3 inches by 2.5 inches. Let's now make this square, before we make it a post, a component. Click yes, and now we're going to take this component using the move tool. We're going to copy it, and we're going to drag it all the way down to the end, making sure you snap to the corner and on your guideline. As soon as you snap, let's then backslash for 3, and that should create 3 more, or a total of 3, I'm sorry, posts. Now you notice that these posts aren't in the middle of one of these deck boards. So let's carefully move each one up to the right so that it snaps the dimension line and the edge of the deck board. You should only have to do this for the first 2. If your deck boards are off or your square is incorrect, change your square size to fit whatever size you made the deck board. Don't go back and actually change the deck board itself. Just make a square that fits to the size of your deck board that is 3 inches wide. Alright, so to save some time, we're going to press the Shift key and select the first 3 measurements for these lines. Once again, I'm going to grab the front right edge of my back support, press Control, and copy myself a set all the way across my drawing. You'll notice I did not do the front one because the front is slightly different. Instead of moving across the same way that we did here, because we're not going to have any posts in the middle, and we need posts up and down this one. That's why we waited to do this one individually. So let's click this, the select tool, oops, making sure you're copying it, press Control, and we will copy it all the way over and snap. All of our posts should be lined up, except we need more across the back here. So before you exit the tool, it's backslash for 3 and create a total of 4 posts across the front, 4 along the side, and 4 on the other side. Did this correctly, we can double click our component, use our push pull tool for 2 feet up. You should now have all your posts push pulled up to this position. Moving over to the back post, we will create the railings that run along and through each of the support poles we just made. Zooming in, we'll need 3 grid lines, 1 to the middle, snapping your midpoint, 1 down 3 inches from the top line, and 1 up from the top line. You may also want to go over at this point and give yourself a guideline down the middle here, snapping to the center. Oops, making sure you're snapping to the center point. Alright, zooming in on our very first pole, we're going to create a rectangle. I'd start it off down here and give yourself some room to move it. This rectangle is going to be 1 inch by 2 inches and look like this. I will double click, move it into position, and snap the midline to the intersection point of my 2 guidelines. Before clicking off, we're going to right click and make this a component. Now that this is a component, we are going to copy it straight down, snapping to the edge here. Then I'm going to select both of the top and bottom by holding Shift with my select tool, and now grabbing the middle, pressing Control, dragging it across to make 2 additional lines. Now, since we don't have a horizontal line here, make sure that you stick to the midline and you have your red line coming across, making sure you know that that's directly across from the other one. Alright, now that since these are components, we're going to change them all by double clicking into the first one, going into edit mode, and pushing and pulling straight across our drawing to this point here, giving you your side lines on either side. Using the exact same process, we'll create 1 line across the front. We couldn't use these components as they came forward and these go across to the side. So I will double click here. Oop, I'm sorry, don't double click, get your guidelines. You want to come to the middle, 3 inches down, 3 inches up. And now we'll make our rectangle. This time we're going to enter it as 2 inches by 1 inch. Same process, make it a component. Move it from the midpoint, snap, and now straight down. Last step, pull it across. Okay, should look like this. And now let's delete our guides once again. Now, with the supports for our railings complete, we're going to put a decorative touch along the side of the railing for slats. Again, our dimension tool will start from the edge and will come in about 2 inches. Let's do the same for this side over here. Now our little slats will consist of a simple rectangle that goes down to the bottom and pulls over. In this instance, the thickness of, or the depth of between the two railings is 1 foot 6 inches, so we'll enter 1 foot space 6 inches, comma, the thickness we want, which in this case we'll probably use 2. Okay, now that actually looks a little bit big, so let's backtrack. Let's create our slats here by snapping the back edge, or the top edge, where the dimension line meets, pulling it down, and we'll use the distance of 1.5 feet, comma, 1 inch. Oops. 1.5 feet, comma, 1 inch for thickness. And there you go. Now, before we go on further with our slat, let's make it a component. We'll make it a component because we're going to use it many other times and we want it to all be the same. So let's take this component, top right edge, press Control, and copy it all the way over and snap it in position. Now we're here, we're going to approximate how many different slats we want. So as I drop that, I'm going to press \30 and press enter. It seems as though 30 gives us a nice amount of spacing in between each of the railings without giving us too many. If we're happy with this size, we're then going to go back, double click, and now we're going to give each of these slats some detail by pulling them out slightly, just about 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75 inches. And you can see the thickness. Now we're going to give ourselves a little bit of detail along the edges. To do so, we're going to take our dimension tool, and I'm going to come down 1.5 inches. Now from this point, I'm going to use my arc tool, and I'm going to start at the top edge, move down to the bottom edge, and then move my arc up slightly. You don't want too much of an angle here, otherwise it will not work properly. So we just want to go slightly up so that we do not have lines crossing over down here. So something nice and simple here. And let's pull back to see what that looks like. You'll see our slat has a nice defined edge on the top, so we'll do so on the bottom as well. 1.5 inches up, and we'll do the reverse now. Now we have a ton of guide lines. Let's get rid of these, edit, delete guides, and we have our deck looking good. Now we're going to go to the other sides and do the exact same thing. 2 inches over. And now we will draw our slat. Let's just double check our size over here. 1 inch. So it'll be 1.5 inches by 1 inch. Did it again. 1.5 inches. Sorry, 1.5 feet, that's the problem. By 1 inch. Except you have to reverse them. So it's going to be 1 inch by 1.5 feet. Alright, there it is. Now remember, make it a component. Copy it over. Drop it down. Backslash 35. Looks good. So now edit the component. 0.75 inches out. 1.5 inches down. 1.5 inches up. And use our, make sure you're getting the right dimension line. You have a lot of dimension lines now, so make sure you're getting one on the edge of 1, 2, push pull. And that should complete that front part of the deck. Complete your guides. Now, with the first 2 sides completed, let's see if you can do the side, the last side, using the same measurements as the first. Alright, now that you have the entire deck put together, we'll do one last piece of detail involving the tops here. Let's zoom in and let's go into edit mode of the component so all the components will be affected. With my offset tool, I'm going to offset just about 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75 inches. Enter. That'll look like this. Let's bring our center up for a full 1 inch. And now let's bring the bottom edge up for 0.5 inches. Now you see we have a little cap here, but we want to take the edge off to make it a little bit smoother. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arc tool. You can do the same, no specific measurement, but make it small enough that it fits inside. You don't want to go too large here, it's going to give us problems. So I'm going to go a little wider, in fact. And just give yourself a slight arc. In fact, we may have to go almost all the way down to the bottom in order to get an arc that works. So let's see if instead of entering this number, let's see if we can enter our own number. Right now it's at 1/8 of an inch, so let's go to 1/16. So we're going to enter 1/16 of an inch, and that'll get us inside. So we'll start from our corners and make a 1/16 of an inch. We'll select our top, face, our follow me tool, and we'll round that edge off nicely. We can try the same thing with the top, or leave it square if you like. I'm going to do one more slight arc here for a 1/16 of an inch again. And then select my faces that I want the follow me tool to follow, finishing off. Alright, all that's left to do now is to color it. We have some good wood grains. Remember that you have different components here, so you can color the entire thing in one shot, or if you want to do little by little with different wood tones, which for this part we're probably going to keep it all wood, but you can color it how you like. I'm going to use a wood tone, and we have in wood lumber. So I'm going to go in, and we'll continue coloring each component. I will use all wood for mine until each of the portions of the deck are colored. You can see how using components makes the process a lot easier, as you can color multiple components all at the same time. And then if you didn't like it, you can go back and you could change any or all of the colors as you see fit. And that concludes our back deck.